faithfully sharing values and interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today's book we're interpreting for you is Feminism from Scratch. Feminism also has a more common name, the women's rights movement. What are your thoughts on feminism? Feel free to leave comments and join the discussion in the comment section. In human history, there have been three influential waves of feminist movements. The first emerged in the late 19th century, with women fighting for suffrage, education rights, and equal employment opportunities. The second wave happened in the 1960s and 1970s, focusing on specific inequalities in social and family life, like demanding equal pay for equal work at work and opposing domestic violence at home. The third wave began in the early 1990s, emphasizing the diverse value orientations within feminism. Though their specific demands differed, all three movements shared the core goal of securing equal social rights for women as men. And it's fair to say that the rights and social status women enjoy today largely come from the efforts of generations of feminist pioneers. However, many people have a rather negative impression of feminism. Part of this is because feminism has many theoretical factions, some with more radical ideas. Another part is due to a lack of understanding about feminism and even some misconceptions. So, beneath all appearances, what is the true essence of feminism? Why do we still need feminism today? And what can ordinary people do? The book we're covering today will answer these questions for you. The authors are two Japanese women, one of whom is a leading figure in Japanese feminist theory and activism. Sociologist Chizuko Ueno. She has taught and researched feminist theory for over 40 years at institutions like the University of Tokyo. Her works include Patriarchy and Capitalism and Misogyny, both interpreted by Sally's Book Talk. In 2019, 71-year-old Chizuko Ueno gave a speech titled The Society That Awaits You, where effort may not be rewarded at the University of Tokyo's entrance ceremony, sparking strong social reactions. The other author, manga artist Eiko Tafuza, inspired by this speech, interviewed Chizuko Ueno about feminism. This book is a verbatim record of their conversation. Presented as a dialogue between the two, the book uses lighthearted humor to explore serious feminist topics. Next, I'll break it down into three parts to interpret the book's main content. Part 1, what is feminism? Part 2, why do we still need feminism today? Part 3, how can ordinary women practice feminism in daily life? First, let's define what feminism actually is. Feminism's core characteristic is advocating for equal rights, not special privileges. We must first clarify the biggest misconception, that feminism means women seeking male-like privileges. Gender discrimination is deeply rooted in human culture. Since humanity entered agricultural society, men became the primary workforce as farming took over. Men began dominating gender relations. For millennia, most global social systems have been patriarchal. Patriarchy establishes male dominance over women as a power structure. It systematically grants men privileges through institutional structures, authorizing male roles while rationalizing these advantages. Hence, many believe women's rights movements seek male-equivalent privileges or compete for dominance. Or this makes men, as beneficiaries, feel their privileged status is threatened. Thus, feminism faces global resistance, with feminists often criticized by anti-feminists, primarily men. Take the second feminist wave, 1960s to 1980s, advocating workplace equality. Influenced by this, Japan enacted the 1985 Equal Employment Opportunity Act, allowing women in decision-making roles previously reserved for men. Many Japanese men confronted female colleagues in these new roles with attitudes like, "Stop being a woman then! Compete with me directly!" This male resistance once led to severe internal competition in comprehensive positions, making workloads heavier and hours longer. If men see feminists as competitors, they'll demand women act exactly like them in every way. In countries like South Korea, where men are required to serve in the military, anti-feminist sentiment is particularly strong. Because those men believe women don't serve, they shouldn't demand equality. Chizuko Ueno points out that thinking feminism means women becoming men fundamentally misunderstands feminism. Feminism isn't about women becoming another privileged group, because privilege creates new discrimination and oppression. Feminists don't aspire to replace men and create another unequal world, but rather a world where both genders have equal rights. Feminism has always advocated for equal rights, not special privileges. Chizuko Ueno summarizes feminism this way. Feminism is absolutely not about women acting like men, nor about the weak trying to become strong. Feminism is about pursuing respect for the weak as well. Recognizing women as relatively weaker than men in society is feminism's second essential characteristic. In patriarchal societies, men who dominate social power are the strong, while women in subordinate positions are the weak. It's precisely by recognizing this unfair power distribution and women's subordination that feminists seek change across all social spheres. However, outwardly, many women strongly avoid admitting women are weak because they can't acknowledge their vulnerability or tolerate fellow women taking a victim stance. For example, many daughters sympathize with mothers dominated by fathers, yet can't tolerate their submissiveness. As fellow women, seeing female weaknesses causes pain and disgust. Ueno defines this female self-loathing as misogyny, just as men can't stand being called cowards. They might even risk death just because of that. Among women, this misogyny makes them ashamed of being weak, driving them to fight, which is why many become feminists. Chizuko Ueno believes all feminists harbor misogyny, because without self-loathing, they wouldn't need to fight as feminists. Essentially, feminists are people constantly battling their internalized misogyny. Additionally, feminism has a third core characteristic. It lacks a unified theoretical framework. That is, feminism is diverse, with numerous theoretical schools, even described as many schools as feminists. Researchers have broadly categorized 11 major schools. Different schools may have sharp disagreements. Some hold radical views while others are moderate, often clashing directly. They debate endlessly on specific issues, like whether women should adorn themselves. Moderates see beauty pursuit as necessary and reasonable. What they oppose is pathological single aesthetics centered on male standards. Their goal is establishing diverse, personalized beauty. For example, one can choose to be plump or slim, lighten their skin or tan it. Radicals argue women shouldn't adorn themselves at all, especially not in seductive ways, because it pleases men. So cosmetic surgery is unacceptable, and ideally even makeup shouldn't be used. Other debates include, should women serve in combat like men? Should men pay for women? Should ladies first etiquette exist? These questions, like whether such social etiquette should exist, frequently become focal points of debate among feminist schools. Ueno notes, feminism celebrates women becoming their authentic selves. Thus, feminism should inherently be diverse, with ideas clashing without orthodox or heretic distinctions. Indeed, many feminist issues defy simple answers. Is female self-adornment about pleasing men? Should one choose career or family? These questions lack standard answers. What matters is the impact of debating them. For example, in 2017, Japanese Assemblywoman Akane Shoko brought her 7-month-old to parliament and received a formal reprimand. This incident sparked debate in Japanese society about whether women bringing children to work is good or bad. Debate. Though no consensus was reached, it successfully drew attention to working women's conditions in Japan. As such debates accumulate, they can trigger qualitative change through quantitative buildup. For instance, governments may introduce refined legislation to better protect working women's rights and use. Ueno argues feminism shouldn't fear debate, but must avoid malicious attacks. Its purpose is raising awareness of feminist issues. All right, that covers part one. We discussed feminism's 3 core characteristics. First, advocating equal rights, not privileges. Second, acknowledging women as disadvantaged. Third, encompassing diverse theoretical frameworks. Now let's explore part 2, why we still need feminism today. Compared to historical eras, women's rights have significantly improved in modern society.
Three feminist waves have secured substantial rights in politics, economy, culture, society, and family.
So, do we still need feminism today? The answer is yes.
Because patriarchal foundations persist, with unspoken gender divisions still embedded in society.
Aiko Tafusa proposed the A-side, B-side theory to explain this default gender division. She explains society has an A-side, politics, economy, employment, and B-side, life, childcare, nursing, illness, disability.
Initially, both genders occupy the A side, but pregnancy or childcare force women to the B side.
For example, B-side hospitals might say, "You have miscarriage symptoms. Rest at home." Women then face difficult negotiations with A-side employers about this. Ultimately, at certain life stages, women constantly shuttle between A and B sides. Men might transfer to B side due to illness or injury, but otherwise remain primarily on A side. Even after marriage and children, men typically stay on A side as primary breadwinners. If women don't voice demands or break A or B side barriers, men rarely engage with the B side, not just due to invisible social divisions, but because patriarchal thinking remains their mental starting point, even when expressed subtly. For example, when explaining sexual violence to men, people often say, "Imagine your girlfriend, wife, or daughter as the victim. Then you'll understand the brutality."
But this framing is problematic. Why must we imagine female relatives as victims?
Chizuko Ueno notes this stems from deep-rooted patriarchy, viewing women as male appendages, where assault damages the property. Such thinking prioritizes male power dynamics over genuine respect for women.
Similarly, when men say, "Let me protect you forever," it often reflects this possessive mindset.
The proper attitude toward women isn't pampering, but respect and equality. Moreover, divisions exist among women themselves.
Career women versus housewives, married versus single, mothers versus childless. They struggle to unite. Take the career-housewife divide.
Around 2010, Japan still viewed working women as tragic. When Eiko Tafusa had her first child in 2012, people pitied daycare users, assuming husbands' low salaries forced them to work. But things changed rapidly.
By 2017,
When Tafusa had her second child, such comments vanished. In just 5 years, career women surged, especially in executive roles. These women, with high salaries, sharp attire, confident strides, gained social recognition. Meanwhile, once dominant housewives became marginalized, even experiencing relative deprivation. What does that imply? It's that feeling of subjective dissatisfaction and lack when seeing others have what you don't. Similar to, "Why am I getting the short end of the stick?" As for career women, their attitude towards housewives is one of keeping a respectful distance with a hint of discrimination. This is how conflicts and oppositions arise. In reality, housewives, like career women, continuously create value for the family and society. It's just that under a patriarchal system, housewives' labor value isn't yet evaluated monetarily.
Therefore, Chizuko Ueno believes such conflicts among women are amplified.
she says we must realize that what truly brings us into difficult situations isn't fellow women, but the patriarchal society behind it.
In short, patriarchal social culture ensures that gender inequality will persist long term. Thus, women must continue fighting for equal rights. Feminism concerns every woman's personal interests, and only through unity can success be possible. Even if you're not a feminist, you can practice it in daily life. B-E-E. Part 3 will discuss how ordinary women can practice feminism in life. First, in social life, as part of a disadvantaged group, women can speak up about what makes them uncomfortable, voice dissatisfaction, doubts, anger, and concerns. The event that makes you uncomfortable might not be isolated. It's precisely due to the disparity in gender power, as seen in the second feminist wave of the 1960s and 70s. Back then, the slogan, "The personal is political," meant that personal issues are political issues. For example, domestic violence in feminists' view A wife beaten by her husband isn't about family emotions, a man's upbringing, or a woman's flaws. It's a manifestation of social power. If women are men's appendages, men can naturally dispose of them as they please. Similarly, workplace sexual harassment is defined by feminists as a social expression of male control over women. Speaking out loudly against dissatisfaction is a powerful counterattack. Dare to raise uncomfortable questions. For example, why are important positions dominated by men? For instance, when facing unwelcome male gazes or hearing sexist jokes, dare to say, "Please show respect," or "I don't find this amusing." In such situations where you feel offended or disrespected, firmly say no instead of forcing yourself to always be proper. As Chizuko Ueno pointed out, when we voice all our confusions and endured grievances, we realize nothing in this world should be taken for granted. In today's era of booming self-media, more women can express their lived realities and thoughts through writing and public speaking. And Chizuko Ueno calls this resisting culture with culture.
Take Iko Tafuza, who uses satirical comics to express her feminism. She began drawing because she believed change won't happen if unspoken, even when speaking feels futile.
It's like calm water that won't ripple unless someone throws a stone. So even with minimal power, throw your stone. It may amplify into a louder voice. Secondly, marriage and family life provide women concrete leverage for their struggle. Marital issues, while personal, are also social issues concerning gender and relationships.
By dismantling patriarchy household by household, we drive broader societal change.
Chizuko Ueno advocates one-by-one kill in marriage, a term adapted from Japanese right-wing assassination tactics. In marriage, it means if societal change seems impossible but the person is worth it, spend a lifetime changing at least one individual, your husband. How exactly do we achieve this change? Through persistent demands for your husband to equally share responsibilities. This includes household chores, childcare, and other duties. Earlier, we discussed society's A or B sides. Ueno urges women, especially post-childbirth, to break these barriers. Because pregnancy forces wives to constantly shuttle between sides, while husbands merely glance at B side, but remain anchored in A.
After childbirth, most wives must stay on the B side long term, especially without elder help. If husbands don't shuttle between sides to share burdens, situations worsen.
Yet, husbands don't grasp this. They think changing a diaper or making formula, occasionally, is major help. They mean no malice. Patriarchal conditioning makes this behavior feel natural. If wives voice dissatisfaction, and husbands neither flee nor retaliate with greater violence, the husband's tolerance of emotional pressure signals acceptance of her demands. Chizuko Ueno illustrates with a friend's story, a freelancer who married for love and soon had a child. Initially, her husband held traditional man outside, woman inside views, blind to chores or childcare. The type who wouldn't upright a toppled oil bottle, he saw it as her job. Finally, the friend snapped. As her husband left for work, she grabbed his leg, demanding, "Why ignore my feelings? What will you do with us?" Shocked, he didn't say talk tonight, but genuinely reflected. Why is my wife so angry? He took a day off for deep discussion, then switched to flexible work to share childcare and household duties, restoring peace. Later, laughing with Ueno, she said, "His income dropped, but our relationship improved." But such wives are rare in Japan. Most avoid conflict in marriage. Twitter reveals housewives venting, "My husband said something awful. He does nothing at home." Thousands of such posts. These women just vent dissatisfaction indirectly, unwilling to truly confront their husbands. Most comments express, "Talking to my husband is pointless. Forget it. I've stopped expecting anything from him." That's the sentiment. Around 2010, a popular Japanese parenting magazine advised, "If your husband does nothing at home, just treat him like a dog." Such social culture subtly guides women to avoid marital confrontation. Chizuko Ueno strongly opposes this marital dynamic. She sees marriage as letting someone into your life while entering theirs, a profound choice. In such intertwined lives, one's attitudes and values face testing. Thus, it becomes the optimal moment for self-discovery. Both spouses should seriously engage in each other's domains, breaking personal boundaries. Without this step, if you stay passive, avoid negotiation, or dodge deep connection, genuine intimacy is impossible.
Women must initiate this unyielding relationship. Men won't voluntarily change as beneficiaries. This is feminism's core struggle.
To make husbands relinquish male privileges, constantly challenge their domestic advantages, pursue even small matters thoroughly. For example, ask about kindergarten pickup. Why must it be me? Why can't you take leave? Even cooking. Why am I doing this? Eiko believes life accumulates through trivialities. Couples must tackle each issue, resolve it completely, forcing husbands to compromise, making them share chores or childcare, dismantles marital patriarchy. By defeating it household by household, one by one kill, society transforms. But Eiko Tafusa warns, if wives become overly dominant, they must reciprocally listen to husbands, otherwise relationships deteriorate. Because feminism isn't simple male opposition, it's about collaborating with men to solve discrimination and prejudice from patriarchal society. For our next generation, boys and girls alike, their parents' negotiations, struggles, and unity become their first lesson in equality. Our small efforts starting from scratch might spare them from having to begin at zero.
After today's discussion, what new perspectives do you have about feminism?
Feel free to share your thoughts and join the conversation in the comments. I hope you make the progress. All right, that concludes our interpretation of Feminism from Scratch. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.